Tough times create strong men. Strong men create easy times. Easy times create weak men. Weak men create tough times.
Welcome to Stay Paid Insurance and Financial Marketing. Unlock the secrets of success in insurance and financial services, where each episode delivers valuable tips and strategies to elevate your marketing game and help you succeed in both life and business. Brought to you by Reminder Media. Welcome to Stay Paid. My name is Joshua Stike along with Luke Acree, and our guest today is Raza Begg. Raza is an industry expert with over 16 years experience in all areas of insurance. He's an executive director and the first USA six-figure earner within 5 months for Experior Financial Group, as well as a speaker, coach, and published author. Raza, welcome to Stay Paid. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, man. I'm so honored to be invited to this amazing podcast.
Well,
I've been watching Luke and you guys doing it, and I always get into the morning Monday motivation that Luke does live, and I was like, man, one day I'm going to be on this podcast. So it happened.
Well, we only bring superstars on, Raza, and I mean that in all seriousness. Now, before you got into insurance, because I want to dive into, you've built an agency with 500 people, then you ended up leaving that and starting again, and now I know you're building another one, you're crushing it. But before all of that, you were a dancer. And not just a dancer, you were a world-class dancer. Can you tell us a little bit about your dancing background?
Yeah, I usually a lot of time correct people. When you just say dancer, people think kind of bad stuff,
Oh, yeah. What was your strip club name? No.
Yeah, just clear out all the poles. Okay. So I would say ballroom dancer. So that kind of puts a little, different spin to it. So yes, I grew up. I grew up in Pakistan, right? Out of all the places. And believe it or not, breakdancing was a big thing in Pakistan. And I grew up in my teens, and I started learning breakdancing. We used to travel a lot to England, and I started watching all these videos of breakdancing, pop, electric pop, windmills, spins, and I learned it. And I came back and I started teaching at an academy when I was in my high school. And that's where my love for dance came. And so I came to the US to do my degree in IT. And I finished my degree and I said, you know what, I'm going to go back to my passion for dance. And I'm really going to learn the true partnership dancing, the European style, the American style. And that's when I got into ballroom dancing and started doing that and took it to a stage where I was competing for the U.S. team in international Latin professional competitions, and eventually opened up a couple of dance studios. And so that's kind of what my dance journey started.
What's the highest that you ranked in the world?
I was top 12 in the U.S. and top 48 in the world.
Jeez, man, that is crazy. What type of discipline does it take with dancing? Does that translate to business? Kind of like, we use sports as an analogy all the time, but I've never used dance. Like, what type of discipline, what's the things that you've taken from dance and applied to your business?
It's just like a pianist, right? Or guitarist, right? I mean, you see the final performance, but you don't see the 8 hours of redundant repetition of the scale and the practice and practice and practice, because you love the sport or the playing piano or guitar or dance. You don't really think of that as work, right? And like when they say that if you find something that you can work for free, and you turn your passion into work, that's when you're not working anymore, right? Mm-hmm. So I think the thing I learned from that is if you can find passion in your business and you work it, like if you were not getting paid from it, but you would still do it, that's one of the biggest things that I can give you is treat your business like your passion. Me and my wife, our agency is actually me and my wife, Imrana Begg. She's kind of the backbone of our whole operation. We work together 24/7, and not even one day feels like work. Wow. Because we have passion in it, and people's like, oh, don't you get tired of each other? No, we're business partners. We are life partners. And one of the things that I tell people is like, if you can find that passion between a spouse and a partner also to be in line, and your business is going to flourish. Because that's, I think, a missing link a lot of people either are trying to develop or are missing. But I think from dance, I bring that bring your passion into your business. Hard work is always going to be there, right?
Yep.
I mean, when I used to train, I used to go to train in the morning. I used to start teaching at 12 till 10. But before teaching my regular, where I made money, I used to train at 8 to 12 o'clock. And then when we finished at 10 o'clock, we would train from 10:30, 11 till about 1 o'clock every day, right? That you need that, because to be able to have the edge to win. Now, ballroom competitive dancing, just like you see on Dancing with the Stars, Dancing with the Stars is more of like a fun stuff. It's not as strict. But for an average person, that's pretty strict, right? It's like, wow, man, that's like discipline. So I trained Emmett Smith for Dancing with the Stars when he was on the show.
That's cool.
Jeez, man.
Yeah. So
was he a good dancer? Because the Cowboys suck, so I'm assuming that translates to. I'm assuming I had to get that in there
from the Commanders fan.
Hey, let me tell you a funny story about that. So, my manager calls me and says, "Hey, Raza, you got to come to the studio. We have this celebrity here from Dancing with the Stars. You got to coach him." I'm like, "Who's he? Who's the celebrity?" She said, "It's Emmett Smith." And I'm like, "Who's Emmett Smith?" She's like, "Emmett Smith." Now we're in Texas, right? So she's like all getting frustrated with me. "Emmett Smith, Dallas Cowboys." I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Like I don't watch football.
You're like, who are the Dallas Cowboys? No.
So I mean, nothing against Cowboys. I mean, but literally, it's like me. I'm a musician. I'm a dancer. So evenings are spent either training or practicing or
Yeah, well, think about that.
I don't watch TV. Right?
You literally trained from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. Then you taught classes all day from 12 to 10 at night. And then oftentimes you said you trained again from 10 at night to 1 a.m. in the morning. That's
correct.
Crazy, man. Like, if you think about that, like, translate that, everybody who's listening to this, whether you're listening to your car, in the gym, or whatever, everybody who's listening to this, like, imagine if you trained your cold calls. And you trained from 8 to 12 every day making your cold calls. Then you did your normal business from 12 to 10. And then from 10 to 1 a.m. Now, you can't call people from 10 to 1 a.m. But just imagine you could. From 10 to 1 a.m.
Might be on a different coast, yeah. No.
You could, I mean, maybe. Maybe you could call people in Hawaii, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
But from 10 to 1 a.m., think about it. You literally are doing your cold calls. If you did that every single day, yes, you would be the number one cold caller in the world, probably.
Definitely. If you, like I said that, and you play guitar. I saw Luke, you have some guitars hanging on the back. So if you literally, if somebody's told you, "Hey, Luke, man, if you could play guitar all day and not have to, work for money, you would do that."
Yep. I loved it. That's what I thought I was going to do. That's literally what I thought I was going to do. Yep.
Exactly the same thing, right? So if you can find passion in your work, just like you would find passion in your sport or your hobby, that is the pivotal point in your business. And then you don't have to think about I have to make dials, right? Mm-hmm. So when I started in the insurance business, I had a situation, right? I had a heart condition. I had a quadruple bypass, which is pretty severe. That's kind of what got me out of the whole competitive arena. And I almost died for 10 minutes on the table, and they could not revive me. And so coming out of that, I had to change something drastically, because I was doing about 7 figures a year with my dance career, with endorsements, with competitions, performances. I could not do that anymore, right? So I started asking people at my studio, because we had pretty wealthy clients, and I'm like, "Brother, you are here all day and spending about 10 grand a month in my studio. What do you do?" So this guy said, "Oh, I do insurance." I'm like, "Whoa, okay, so you make a lot of money in this?" He said, "Yeah." And he was not even spending it on himself. He's spending on his wife, right, to take lessons. And I'm like, man, I need to check on that. I said, can I make like 10 grand a week? He's like, yeah, that's easy. I'm like, what? Really? I said, I need to do that. He said, okay, you got to get a license and that's it. I said, okay, well, what's the fastest way to get a license? He said, just go do a 2-day live class. I said, all right, I'll sign up for a 2-day live class. Saturday all day, Sunday all day, Monday I scheduled the test. Boom, I was done. 3 days, right?
Wow.
Baffles me when people start studying for licenses and like 6 months go by and they have not yet completed the license. I'm like, what? I said, I did it in 2 days, right? Like, what are you trying to do? Trying to become a professor of insurance? Nobody's going to give you a job for that, okay? You just need to pass the test. So I passed the test and start doing it. And they said, hey, here's the leads. And I found passion because I'm a coach at heart. And so I found passion in educating. And I was a teacher, right? So I think that I transferred that to the insurance industry. And I looked at a team member as a student of mine. And how would I help somebody go from zero to where they can perform, right? And so I think at the end, you also have to have care. I used to say that at my studio when I used to hire new teachers is like, you're either born with care or you don't, right? You can't grow care, right? You care for people or you don't care for people. So I see a lot of also in the industry, people that have zero patience, they have no empathy for other people, and they want to build an agency or they want to recruit people and they treat them like crap. So a lot of agents I kind of almost feel like I rescue them because they've been so bruised and damaged that they are gun shy. And so humans in general, right, need nurturing. It doesn't matter if it's a grown 50-year-old man.
Agree.
They've gone through mud, through the grind, and the life has happened, right? And I used to see that in the dance career. I would have like doctors, engineers come in for dance lessons. And when they would step into the ring, they would become like babies, right? They'd be like, oh, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. And I was like, man, you're a surgeon. Like, stand up tall, like, you're fine, man. Let's go. You know what I mean? It's psychologically, when people learn something new, they become babies because in their mind, they're at that new level, right?
Yeah, they don't have the confidence.
They don't have the confidence. So in the insurance industry, the same thing. So I found that as a real connection that I had. So I brought my passion through that route into my teaching in insurance because I felt it's the same thing. I'm teaching adults how to really learn this and go out and help other people.
Well, how did you build like the first 500 agents that your first agency, right? You got in, you recruited 500 agents or something like that. Like walk us through like what was the key takeaways you learned from that experience? Like if somebody wants to recruit 500 agents and build an insurance business, what are the key components that you look back and go, yep, this is what was great and you applied to your next venture?
It's really hard, man. But it's a simple answer. It's one recruit at a time. one person at a time. And, it just happens. And I think if you just care for one person at a time and help them develop confidence, build confidence, and just have a passion for helping more people. So here's the thing. There's a misconception of recruiting. And a lot of people come in and they're like, oh, I don't want to recruit, right? I don't want to recruit. I just want to be personal. I don't want to write business. So I'm like, okay, so you just want to be a car sales guy. You want to have just transactional sales. They're like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm like, well, you just said you don't want to build a business. You want to just sell, right? So you want to just sell. You want to just transact. He said, well, yeah, okay, because their misconception is there of recruiting. So I'm like, okay, why do you want to sell? Oh, I want to help people get protection. I want to help families get life insurance so that kids are protected, right? I said, okay, great. So how many families can you help? Oh, I can help like 10 families a week. Great. Don't you want to help 100 families a week? Yeah. Can you do that? No. Okay, so that's why you need to build a team, because you have now 10 people helping 10 families. Now you're helping 100 families a week. So what you need to understand is when you're recruiting, you're not recruiting it's not an MLM, right? So there's a big misconception of recruiting an MLM. In MLM, what happens is you recruit a person, you get paid because they pay a transaction fee, and you're done, and you are next. You throw them against the wall, and now you're recruiting. So recruiting has got a bad name because of that, right? In insurance, what happens? You hire or recruit a person, and you don't make any money because there's no cost that they're paying, and you're not making any commission on recruiting. You have to build them, train them. It takes 3 months to get them to a place where they are now producing, and maybe then you make an override, right? So there's a lot of servant leadership required in recruiting in the insurance world. It's not just an MLM recruiting where you recruit a person, you make commission, you go to the next person. It's not that, right? So there's a misconception coming from people getting bruised by maybe some network marketing that they felt, oh.
Well, how do you find the agents? Like right now, if you were looking to recruit, are you looking at other agencies online and linking in with them? Are you going to networking events? Like how do you kind of agent attract right now?
So what I've experienced is the best way to really get the right agents is the Oprah effect, right?
Okay.
Winfrey Oprah effect, which is what we're doing right now, right? Is really sharing your story and being transparent about who you are and putting it out there on what you do. What also is known as attraction marketing, right? Putting a content out there so that the people that you want to attract are looking for you and they come to you.
Gotcha.
And that's been my growth cycle from the beginning. Is I put content out there, and I want people who are looking for me to come to me.
Is that mostly podcast interviews or your personal content that you're posting? And are you posting on Facebook and Instagram? Is that your main areas or?
Yeah, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. And I do want to help. I know, I was there, so I want to help. I want to help leaders, other leaders that are building big agencies. And unfortunately, we get kind of like caught up, like I did in my first company. I got caught up in the smoke and believed everything that the leadership was talking about. And then, but when I wanted to go exit out, I found out I don't own my business, right? There's a lot of agency owners like me that I was back in 2008, 9, 10, are that they're building a business on quicksand. And it's almost like building your second floor on somebody else's first floor. And you're thinking you're building a tower, but you don't own the deed in your name and the first floor. And so I talked to a lot of leaders, and I'm like, hey, have you looked at your contract? He's like, oh, no. They say, I'm good. I'm like, what do you mean? I said, if you wanted to go buy a house, would you just take a word, on a handshake? Like, yeah, okay, I'm going to move in. I'm going to pay for 30 years. You own the house. And once you pay it off in 30 years, then we'll give you the deed. I'm like, are you going to do that? And literally, man, I speak to so many leaders. They are doing that. They're not asking for a contract. They're not asking for their ownership documents. I'm like, the first thing I did was when I joined this particular company, Experior Financial Group in Canada, my first interview with the CEO was like, hey, can you send me a contract that shows my equity share ownership, shows my ownership, shows my code ownership, my agency code ownership, and my legacy ownership? They're like, boom, here it is. I was like, wow. Like, okay. And then I sent it to my attorney. He saw it and it's like, okay, yeah, you can move forward.
But let me ask you this. So that's the big pain point, right, in the industry, I guess, is that you don't own what you've built, right? So it's a big pain point. But if I'm being real, do most agents ever make it to a level where it matters? Do most insurance agents, could they be Raza, or do they just have I hate to say job, right? Because I don't think it's a bad thing, but it's like They just have a job where they're making 6 figures a year or making good living, selling insurance, and that's their job, and that's who they're going to be. They don't have the talent to be an agency owner. Like, is it that situation where out of the million insurance agents out there, well, hey, yeah, the majority are never going to be agency owners. They're going to be transactional.
You know, I have a different philosophy. It's kind of like when a dance student walked into the studio, right?
Yeah.
And if somebody they had no rhythm, no beat, no sense of music, what do you think I would do? Like tell them to sit on the sideline? No, I had to train them, right? So I had to find the talent between them. And you know what the true fact was? The talented person never competed.
Really?
But the non-talented or person that you would think would never be anything would compete because they had to work harder because they did not have it naturally.
Super interesting.
Okay. So should have I given up on them? No. So I think that sometimes the talented people think they got it and they don't work on it, right? But the ones who don't have the talent, they think they work on it, so they become better at it, right? And the difference is they have discipline and not necessarily talent. There's a great book that you should check. I don't know if you might have read it. It's called The Talent Code.
Yeah.
The Talent Code, what it does is this person interviewed, the author interviewed different people in the talent pool and said, hey, why is that all the top novelists come out of England? Yep. Why is that every baseball team in the United States has a Dominican Republican player? Why is that Brazil is known for soccer? Right? Why is that? Is it something in the water? Is it something? What's up with that, right? Mm-hmm. So we went and researched and tried to find out what's the changing, what's the X factor. So, for example, in soccer, the reason why soccer players, Brazilians, are famous, why? Because if you look at a soccer team, when you go to approach them to get a ball, you can't get the ball from them. They dribble. And they can't keep the ball to them, and then they pass it, right? So most of the teams, when you go to attack them, they'll pass the ball. They won't really play around with the ball there, right? Mm-hmm. So where did that come from? That came from that futsal, which is what actually the football was called in Brazil. It was played in a hard concrete, like a location, because they didn't have football fields. And it was in like a basketball size space. So guess what? They had to learn how to dribble and keep the ball because it was very compact spacing, right? And they didn't actually have football. They had like a wooden ball which they put tape around it, and it was like a smaller ball. It was a harder ball. Mm-hmm. So they created techniques and developed mechanisms that they learned how to play in that zone, right? So the same thing with English novelists. What they say is like the culture in England is that the parents tell kids before they start reading how to read, hey, come up with a story. Tell me a story. Make a story up. Yeah. Okay. So
that's
what happens is
interesting,
right? So they're unconsciously, culturally,
they're conditioned. They're
igniting creativity, right? So that's kind of it boils down to small error correction comes across as talent, right? Which is discipline. So you see a pianist or you're a guitarist. I'm sure you're trying to play Hotel California, and you're like, man, how many times have you tried that piece? Like 1,000 times at least to make it sound the same way, right?
Yeah, or Stairway to Heaven or something like that. Yeah.
So it's called small error correction, repeatedly correcting it, right? The two notes of a pianist. Telling how to get more speed, right? So that is the secret in the talent code. So it says there's no such thing as talent. There's work ethics and there's training and skill. So if you take that to insurance, right, that directly translates to your question, looping it back to it, where yes, I believe every single person can be in my place, because if they have discipline and if they do small error correction, what I find is I simply ask people when they're like, oh man, I got to go back to work because it's not working. I'm like, okay, can I look at your calendar? And they're like, what do you mean? I said, can you open your Google Calendar? They're like, okay. They open it, it's blank, right? And I'm like, okay. So explain to me kind of what was happening, like yesterday, Friday, Wednesday, Thursday, what are we doing? Oh, well, and this guy is not working. He's doing insurance full time. I'm like, so your calendar is blank, right? If I open my calendar on any day, I have no space. Like my wife has to put herself on my calendar to talk to me because I'm like blocked, right?
That's
and
so good.
She has to find time to like, hey, you need to play with your son today. I'm going to block the time out. You got to find some time. So if your calendar is blank, your bank account is blank. Simple, right?
Wow.
So it's your discipline. So if anybody, I think, can become an agency owner. Now, again, I've been with a lot of the IMOs in the United States. I've been in the Medicare Advantage space. I've been in the group health insurance space. I've been in teachers' pensions space. I've done it all, right? Because I was trying to find the next home after that debacle happened to me in the first time. And when I found Experior Financial Group, I was like, oh my God, if I could like just shake every leader out there who's building their house on a quicksand, I would say, hey man, at least look at this. I understand maybe right now the Kool-Aid is strong, you know what I mean? And you're like just sold to it. But tomorrow, if things change, there's a home that you can actually own from day one, right? So I think even if we have people in our company right now in Canada, in the Canadian company, that you would not think that they could be a rock star, right? Or they might have a language barrier, but they own their business. So owning your business doesn't require you to be a rock star, okay? Owning your business is just like contractual. It's like, hey, you step in day one, you vested for your clients, you achieve X amount, you become executive director at Experior, you own your agency, you own your agency code, you own a legacy ownership, which means if you die or you retire or you walk away and your E&O and your license is done, you get paid for 10 years, 75% of your business.
Jeez.
Without any negotiation, right? It's upfront. So even the lowest person on the totem pole or the weakest link can, if they just stay in the game long enough, they'll get there, right? So
that's crazy. For 10 years, 75% paid out to you, even if you lose your license and stuff. Wow.
Yeah, and me and my wife Imrana, we just hit our next level, which is gold legacy, and that means we have 10 years of 75%. And then 25%, 11-year to infinity, 25%, meaning to infinity, meaning if we die, goes to our children, their children,
Wow.
their children, and stays in their family, in my family, and that's a true legacy, right?
Yeah, that really is.
So, my mission is truly, I want to speak to the leaders to at least look at the opportunities of true ownership with our Experior Financial Group, and really, check it out. And things might change, and you find out that you don't own anything, then you can maybe just come join me.
All right, Raza. Well, thanks for coming on the episode. Really appreciate it. Before we close out, let people know how they can connect with you.
Yeah, my number is 214-727-3599. That's my cell. Hasn't changed in 20 years. My website is razabegg.com or Raza Begg on any social media site. And before I go on, I actually have a parable that somebody told me one time, and I think it goes directly to your question on how to really help even somebody who's not comes across as like could be a rock star is there was a guy, he said, my grandfather said one time that my grandfather used to walk 10 miles. My grandfather used to walk 10 miles to work, right? Mm-hmm. My father used to walk 5 miles to work. He said, and I drive a caddy. My son is in a Mercedes. But his grandfather said that my grandson is gonna be in a Ferrari, right? Mm. Okay. But my great grandson will be walking again. Mm. He said, why? He said, tough times create strong men. Strong men create easy times. Easy times create weak men. Weak men create tough times. He said to be, to many, you won't understand it, but you have to raise warriors. Mm. And so that stuck to me like, wow, okay, so, if you can train everybody to be a warrior in your team, in your agency, within your kids, that's the differentiating factor. Even if you have financial freedom, you got to treat each other like warriors.
Powerful. Yeah. Thank you, Raza, again for coming on. And thank you all for listening. You can get those links to connect with Raza that we mentioned as well as the show notes over at staypaidpodcast.com. If you enjoyed this episode and want to show your support, hop on over to Apple Podcasts, drop us a 5-star review. And the best way to support the show is to simply share this podcast with someone that you know. If you want to get a hold of me or Luke, you can email us at podcast@remindermedia.com. And of course, you can follow us on social media as well. We are at Stay Paid Podcast. For this episode of Stay Paid, I'm Joshua Stike.
Guys, I'm Luke Acree. Raza, thank you so much, man. Really, really good stuff. I will share with everybody that's listening to this. I mean, your action item from this, if you're not challenged to rethink your discipline and what your calendar looks like, I don't know what you're thinking, man. Think back. This guy was top 12 in the United States for ballroom dancing, and he practiced from 8 to 12 and from 10 to 1 a.m. That really stood out to me. But then you're listening to his whole story, and it comes and revolves around this theme of you're not going to replace hard work and discipline. And the good action item for you is look at your calendar. Is it blank? Because if you look at successful people, they do not have blank calendars. They fill up their day with revenue-generating activities, with prioritization on the things that matter. The difference between top producers and mediocre producers in every business is top producers take action. Take action on that today.